All right, we have everyone in. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. This whole week, we are going to hear the story of one man's life. And that man was known as Brother Andrew. And those are all pictures of him right there on that board. Now, Brother Andrew was born in a place called Holland, which is far away on the other side of the world from us in Europe. And when he was a little boy, he would wear wooden shoes like these. They're called klompen. And he also, as a little boy, he loved to pretend that he was a spy. A spy is like a good guy who sneaks behind enemy lines to gather information and then go back and report to his team. And so even some of his friends, they would play like war games together. And you know what they would do? They would take off their klompen and they would throw them at each other. That's how they would play war. And Brother Andrew used to say, if you ever got hit with one, it's only because you couldn't take yours off fast enough. Now, I don't know about you, I would never want to be hit with a wooden shoe. It feels like it would be really painful. But this is how he played. And he also would do some other things that were kind of troublesome. See, Andrew, as a boy, he liked risk, he liked adventure, he liked a certain amount of troublemaking, which we know is not great, but it's going to help us understand what God did in Brother Andrew's life as we understand him as a little boy and as a young man. So he had a family named the Westras that lived near him. Now, they were a Christian family, and they were very kind and always very nice to Andrew. And Andrew thought, I bet I could do something to make them angry. They're always just so smiley and happy. Can I make them angry? And so one day when he was going by their house, he saw that Mrs. Westra was baking in the kitchen with their stove. And so at that time, where he lived, the stoves, they had a chimney. And the chimney had to be open on top in order for all the smoke to go out of the house from the stove. But he saw in front of their house a piece of glass for a window that hadn't been put in yet. So he picked up that glass and he climbed up onto the roof of their house and he covered the chimney so that all the smoke would go into the house. And that's exactly what happened. And Mrs. Westra had to open the door and blow all the smoke out. And Mr. Westra had to climb onto the roof and take that piece of glass down. But you know what? Even though Mr. Westra was unhappy with that and he didn't like that it happened, he did not lose his temper. He did not get angry like Brother Andrew was hoping that he would. He continued to be self-controlled. And so God was going to use this family in ways Brother Andrew didn't yet know, even with their example when he was a boy. Now, his own family was also a Christian family, and they would go to church. But Brother Andrew, he did not like going to church with them. He thought it was boring. And so he would leave when his parents didn't know it. And he would come back just at the end so he could hear enough about what the preacher was saying to try to make it seem like he knew what was going on and to say a few things about the sermon to make it look like he was really there. So there was multiple ways that Brother Andrew as a boy was a troublemaker. Now, when he was young, something happened that actually was kind of like what he had daydreamed about, but it was real this time. Now, there was a big war called World War II, and that war came to the little village where Andrew lived. And the Germans came and took over where his village was. And Andrew wanted a way to get at these German soldiers who were the bad guys. And so he would wake up in the middle of the night and sneak out of his house. And he would do things like pour sugar into the gas tanks of the soldiers, and then their car wouldn't start. He would even go to other villages and trade vegetables for fireworks. And then he would set those fireworks off in different parts around his village near the soldiers to scare them and startle them and to make them think that there was gunfire going on. And in the beginning, this was fun to him. He thought it was exciting and like an adventure. But the war went on, and he got older, and he started to see that the war was very serious, and people were dying because of the war. And the German soldiers, they were setting people's homes on fire. And it wasn't a joke anymore for Andrew. And Andrew, he was hungry all the time. They were running out of food in the village, and they would eat what they grew. There's a lot of farmers. But you know who was taking their food? The German soldiers. And so they were left with very little to eat. So much so that, I don't know if you can see right here, we have some wooden tulips. Have you guys ever seen these? They come out of the ground at springtime. And these don't grow from seeds. They have a bulb underneath. And those bulbs, Andrew's family had a lot of tulips. They would dig up those bulbs and eat them like a potato because they were so hungry. And his mom is who had the hardest time. Because I bet if you guys think about your mommies or your grandmas, you think about these ladies, they would sacrifice anything for you, wouldn't they? And that's how Andrew's mom was too. So she would pretend to eat, but she was really giving all of her food to her children and her husband. And so she got very, very sick, almost to the point of dying. But God, in his kindness to their family, right when she was the sickest, the war ended. And they were suddenly able to get food again. Andrew, in fact, he loved his mom so much. He got on his bicycle and drove far away so that he could get to a place where he knew they were giving away just breadcrumbs, pieces of old bread. But it was enough that now his family could eat something and his mom could start to get better. Now, as Andrew got older and had experienced 5 years of war in his own village and seen the bad things that could happen, he started to get a desire to go into the army. So he tried when he was 17 years old, but they said, you're not old enough, you need to wait a few more months. So he waited a few more months with all the same desire to join the army. And so shortly before he turned 18, he became a member of the army. And we've already seen Andrew, he liked adventure, didn't he? And he liked excitement, and he liked danger. And he thought, this is what I'm going to get to experience when I join the army. So before getting shipped out to real war, he had to get trained. So he went to another place nearby and he started training there. Now, while he was getting trained for the army, he started going to church all by himself, but not for the reason we would hope. He didn't actually like church anymore as an 18-year-old as he did when he was a boy, but he knew that if he went to church as a member of the army, some nice family would invite him over for dinner every Sunday. And he really wanted a free meal. And so he would go to church, and he would always get invited to someone's house, and he would get to know people. And he would even ask these people if they would write to him while he was away at the war, and they always said yes. Now, one Sunday, he met a woman that he thought was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. He called her Snow White because her hair was so black and her skin was so fair. And he thought, I want to go to her house for dinner. And so he did get to go to her house for dinner, and he asked this beautiful girl if she would write him letters while he was away, and she said yes. And so he hoped maybe someday she could be his girlfriend, but he didn't tell her that then. So after his training, he went home to say goodbye to his own family, and his mom gave him her Bible and said, Andrew, will you please read this? And he said, yeah, sure, Mom. And he took her Bible, but he stuffed it way down in his duffel bag and tried to just forget about it because he didn't really want to read the Bible. And so Andrew then gets shipped off to an island called Indonesia. And when he gets there, he sees the neatest thing right as he gets off the boat. He sees monkeys for sale. And he wants one. But his officer says, oh, no, they bite. You don't want that. So he says, okay, but he thinks to himself, I am going to have a monkey someday. And so Andrew then starts getting into real battle. He gets trained up as a commando. He's a very special person in the army, an elite force. And he thinks, this is awesome, this is exciting. But he never ever thought that he was really going to be killing real people. But you know what? when he went into war, that's exactly what he had to do. And he hated it. And he, even one time, he ended up killing even young children as a part of what he was doing. And he was so sad, and he hated himself for it. And he wanted to be done. He wanted his life to end. And so he would do crazy things to get attention while he was in the war, hoping that he would get shot because he wanted to die, because he was so sad and angry with himself for what he had done. But along the way, he ends up one day getting a monkey of his very own. And this monkey would spend all of its time with Andrew. And Andrew used to go on long runs. He loved to run. And the monkey would run alongside him until it got tired, and then it would hop up onto Andrew. And then it would hang out on Andrew the rest of the run. And they formed a really close bond and became very good friends, the monkey and Andrew. But one day, someone who didn't like Andrew very much hurt his monkey to get back at him. And the monkey almost died. But Andrew was able to take care of it and bring it back to health. But something happened. The monkey was now very scared because he had been hurt by a person. And so Andrew knew that he was going to have to get rid of the monkey. So he took the monkey out into the jungle and he left it there. And the monkey looked at Andrew as if he understood, and he didn't try to come back with him. They had become such close friends. Now, after the war, or in the war, Andrew is being crazy and trying to get attention, and eventually he gets shot. But he doesn't die, which is what he was hoping for, sadly. Instead, he gets shot in his ankle. And now he's really sad because he thinks, I can't even die right. So he gets sent to the hospital. He's done in the war because he can't participate anymore. He recovers as much as he can, still in Indonesia, and then he gets sent back home. And even once he's at home, he still has to spend time in a hospital trying to recuperate and learning how to walk again and learning how to do things so that he can have a normal life. Now, during this time, he starts to get hungry for the Bible. Remember his mom gave him a Bible? He starts to read it, and he starts going to church. But not just on Sunday mornings. He goes to church on Sunday nights, and he goes to church in the middle of the week. And that's not even enough for him. He rides his bike to other villages where he can go to church more. He's reading his Bible all the time. He's going to church all the time. And his family is like, Andrew, we're a little concerned about you. Isn't this a bit much? But Andrew says no. And even Snow White, who he'd been writing letters to, and now he's spending time with, she says, Andrew, I'm a little concerned. I think you need a break. Why don't you go to the movies or something? But he doesn't listen. He keeps reading his Bible all the time and going to church all the time and learning as much as he can about God. And he finally gets to the point where he realizes, I can't be in control anymore. He had lived such a naughty life. He had done many bad things as a boy and also as a grown-up when he was in the war. But he finally realized that God could forgive him. And one night, when it was stormy and cold outside, he lay on his bed with the rest of his family asleep, and he prayed to God, and he said, Lord, if you will show me the way, I will follow you. Amen. And in that moment, what Brother Andrew did was repent and put his trust in Jesus Christ. And we are going to get to see the whole rest of this week what God does with Andy now that he is saved. Isn't that exciting? Like, why does he need a blue Volkswagen? And what are all the Bibles in the picture for? So you guys are going to get to figure that out. But now, I'm going to send you off to Bible time. All right. Oh, sorry, craft. I'm going to send you to craft. All right, have a great rest of your day, guys.